Hello everybody, I'm Darren and I'm going to show you this. This is purported to be a low-cost, ultra-lightweight, ultra-portable 4-foot jib. So we can get right into the reasons why I bought this. Well, first obvious reason, it was cheap and I wanted to give it a shot. Why not? And the price when I bought it, it came out and it was already on sale for like $180, which was a steal. And now the price has apparently gone up. It's like around $220-ish, so it fluctuates a bit. It is using a certain type of structural tubing that you're familiar with in pretty much any monopod, tripod, or boom pole that you may have encountered. And it works great for these, and it's very handy and nifty. So yeah, why not use it for jibs? Well, there's a couple of downsides to using it for jibs. You see, tubes, well, you've never actually seen a tube in place of a structural I-beam for a building, have you? That's because tubes, they don't necessarily handle downforce on their length very well. They're not terrible at it, it's just they're not nearly as good as a bar, rectangle, or what have you. So that's kind of a challenge, and that's why we got to emphasize that this is not for heavy cameras. This is for a DSLR at most. I'm hoping to be able to use this with my C100. I'm still kind of working out the weight thing there, but I'll get into that in a bit. So one of the other things to consider with the tube is its structural integrity. So if you put a hole in a tube and you put a bolt through it like we have here, well, the bolt is obviously sitting on the edge of the tube. Now, say it was, say for instance, this is the bolt that's going through there. Well, if this were a standard jib which had, rectangle or just straight wall siding, it would be sitting like this on that siding, transferring the weight through the length or the edge of that wall. But see, with the tube, it's sitting on something that's kind of like that. So obviously you can see it wouldn't be quite as structurally sound as a flat wall. But thankfully they did think of this, and you'll notice that there's a spacer in between there. That spacer is flat on the edge of the support pillar, and it's conformed on the other edge, conforming to the tubular wall. So that's good. That means they're thinking. Speaking of weight, they claim this to handle 5 kilograms. I don't think so. They don't exactly tell you if that's total weight, including counterweights, or just the camera end. Everyone that's reviewed this and looked into it, or commented on Amazon, has seemed to assume that 5 kilograms is how much camera end weight you can put on it. They gave us 3 of these. They total about 4.5 pounds. One of the defects, which I was going to get into later, is, as you can see, this one came deformed. Although I contacted the seller, they're going to send me a replacement one. Always good when a seller stands behind their product. So this is 4.5 pounds. And over here, I've got some 1-inch weights. These are 5 pounds. So there you have it. Just about balanced with 5 pounds on the camera end and 4.5 pounds on the counterweight end. You can get a slight bit of a positive gain, meaning this section is longer than this section if you extend this all the way, and if you have this at the shortest extension. So that's really the only way I can see this actually living up to its weight claims. 5 kilograms is about 11 pounds, so we just had on there 4.5 plus 5. Not even that, and even so, this thing extends quite a bit. I had to actually, to get my EX1 close to balance, I had to put both of those, wherever I put them, both of those 1-inch weights on here as well. So, that's already 9 pounds, I don't do math. It's upwards of already that 5 kilograms just on the counterweight end. If you're gonna use a camera that's a little bit heavier, like the C100 or something that just seems like it's pushing the weight a little bit more, use the smaller extension. The shorter this is, the stronger it is. The lengthier this is in relation to this side, the more gain you've got on the counterweight end, and the more stable it can be with less weight on that side. The C100 to me is kind of on the edge of what I would want to use this on. I'll probably use it not at full length. I'll use it maybe like at 80% length or whatnot. Strip your camera down. Try not to use any sort of rigs on it. Use only the camera and the lens and battery if at all possible. But if you need to add some sort of weight to this end, shorten it up. You can still get plenty of good motions with just the one extension. Extension 1 still gets you, waist to over the average person's height, which a lot of times is all you need. They do give you 3 of these 700 kilogram weights, and I guess that was kind of a good demonstration of why I'm on the wall about how they designed this. Basically, you've got this section, which comes out, you store it separately, so the whole thing stores in this section. And skip ahead another bit. Fits all inside this lovely bag. Nice touch. And so, why am I holding this? This whole section comes out, and I have it tightened down a lot, for a reason I'll tell you. So that just comes right out. And yeah, this is a giant screw that you can adjust by screwing or unscrewing it. This camera bar has, or this weight bar that you put in, it has markers, so you have a reference of where it actually is, which is nice, so you can get repeatable results, supposedly. This bar, it's obviously threaded and you can move it in and out, and I like it in that the weights can't just slide right off. Great, but yeah, it's not exactly slide, clip, and you're done like typical systems have. So it's kind of a plus and minus thing. And if you do need more weights, like I said, I just basically put on the 1-inch style weights, and instead of using a clip to clip them on, I'll just put it in between these two and then sandwich them together so it doesn't move. And that works pretty well. So let's move on to the connectors. This one's a little bit different. It doesn't have the certain little other piece of plastic in there. And this one I recommend you tighten it down to holy hell. Because if you don't, if it's even a little bit loose, and especially if you have more weights on it, it's gonna fall on your foot and won't be a good day. So this is the one thing where it's like, yeah, you better tighten the crap out of it. Thankfully, these connectors are all metal inside and out, and there's a nice rubber on the top of it. The rubber kind of slides off a little bit, but hey, it's a cheap tripod. Tripod? No, this is a jib. Yeah, that's right. Slide it in, slide it out. And obviously you gotta make sure you get this thing leveled, which they did give us a bubble level. We'll get into that. So if you extend it, obviously that's one extension, and then you've got another set of extensions. The actual thicknesses of the tube, or rather the diameters of the tubes, are not bad. They are not bad at all, and I feel good about that, although of course I wish they were thicker. But I'm not gonna nitpick because this was a cheap jib. So that's okay, but the one big issue I have, one of two big issues I have, yeah. Like in my boom pole review that I did not too long ago, I took a look at how much material the longer section puts into the shorter section, or just the previous stage puts into the other stage, however you want to articulate it. So how much of this is still left inside here for structural integrity? Because obviously the manufacturer, they can do whatever they want. They can have it so it's right at the edge, which wouldn't be very sturdy. This thing is strongest when it's fully retracted, obviously. So the more you lengthen it, the less structurally stable it will be. So where is it that the manufacturer left it so that how much material is left inside here? Unfortunately, that much. Yeah, literally there's a plastic spacer that puts that much inside there, which explains why when I was watching some other reviewers, their system at full length weighted up, it was like bending quite a bit. That's Bobby. I would introduce you to him, but he would be mostly keyed out. And just put... Bobby, say hi. Now shut up. So, if you want to make this thing more stable, you just take some tape, open this up, and be very careful with that white, crappy plastic stopper thing. It's really annoying. Try not to take it off, even though it is only loosely connected. So, take a piece of tape, and however stable you want it, put it so it stops it. I put it so it stops at about 2 inches, so... Okay, I guess we're gonna have a bird in the rest of this thing because he's gonna keep making noise. Okay, so don't crap on me. So just put the spacer in as much as you want. I chose 2 inches. And some of you might be saying, well, that's gonna shorten the overall length. Yeah, by a total 4 inches. If 4 inches is a big deal for you, I can't help you, nor can Bobby here. So if you don't wanna deal with actually doing all of that, just take a magic marker, measure, and make some marks so you can say, okay, you open it up, extend it to, there, to your marker. That might be easier, although I just like having those hard stops just so that I can just manhandle it and go. That brings us to the pillars. The pillars here are nice. They look nice and thick. Looks like it's all anodized aluminum. And they gave us some nice tapped 1/4-inch holes, which is great. So you can pop in your Israeli arm, or magic arm, whatever you want to call it these days for political correctness. And then we've got these knobs, which I was concerned about because, well, let me bring this closer. These knobs are quite large and quite easy to get loose. So I was concerned, well, what happens if a knob comes off? Will this whole thing fail? Thankfully, no. You can have these knobs come right off. Hey, that's nifty. Use that holder. And decent amount of threads to get them on and off. So if even the both knobs come off, your camera's not going to fall and crash and give you a very sad face. That won't happen. So this is a nice polished kind of bolt that's going through here. And these things just screw on. And that's fine. What I did notice though is on this end, it seems they were not exactly accurate. And if you wanted to have a really loose feeling to the smooth jibness, then you're gonna have this issue. Yeah, so to get rid of that, you really have to tighten these down a little bit more, quite a bit more actually, which is gonna stiffen up your motion. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when this thing is weighted up and good to go. Usually you want a little bit more friction. And that brings me to the bearings. There are none. It's just a polished bar. But that shouldn't scare you. One, because you only paid about $200 for this stupid thing, so you really can't nitpick. On the other, and on a similar token, or another token, or whatever token you want, it doesn't actually feel bad. I've actually made a DIY jib where I use just plastic washers. And you know what? You don't need bearings to get a smooth motion. Yes, bearings are good, but it's really not something you can nitpick on this level of cost. So considering all that, this has a very nice smooth motion. Now let's get to the dumbest part of this entire thing, which is this plate. Yes, they gave us a bubble level. Cool. You gotta somehow get your fingers in there, and nobody's got fingers that small. Maybe some Asian lady, I don't know. But yeah, it's really annoying to try and get that in there. My suggestion is get a quick release plate or a small head that you don't need to ever take off again, and just, you know, get your screwdriver, kind of use it up there because it does have both a lever and a notch for a flathead, and just put something on here that you're not going to need to take off because you're really not going to want to fiddle with this more than once, trust me. But then we got this, which is another thing that I was really impressed with. I'm like, wow, for that price you get this. It's a bowl adapter, which means you can take a bowl right off of your tripod and stick it on there and have a fluid head on this end, which is, it's brilliant. It really is. But no, it's really not. Because we come back again to the weight issue. This thing is not meant to carry that much weight. And even if you had the Manfrotto 701 head, that still weighs around 2 pounds. 2 pounds on this head at full extension means you're adding at least twice as much on that end. This bowl adapter comes off with just 2 bolts. I was concerned about how stable that would be, but you've got that much thickness on here and that much thickness on here that those bolts go through, and it feels quite tight. And again, if you're putting enough weight on here to bend that, you're doing it wrong. Just to really nail the hammer in the whatever, that you really are not going to be putting a whole lot of weight on this. Yeah. Not that you're doing this while jibbing. If you are, again, you're doing it wrong. But the point is that a higher end jib won't have that effect where, you know, it's, yeah. And it's just to show that this is meant for smaller cameras. And if you use only smaller cameras in this, you'll probably be very happy. When I was going out and trying this to see what kind of motions I can get, I was perfectly satisfied with the motions. You know, it's as I would have expected for this cost. Not that I need to give a tutorial here, but I guess I'll mention, yeah, you always want to make sure the jib is properly balanced before you go. So if the jib is like this, you're not balanced. The jib should be equalized so that, you know, when you push it up, it stays where you leave it. It should glide. And that will pretty much do it for this guy. Actually, that bozo did forget one very important thing. See, he mentioned about how you should really tighten up this one a whole lot. Same goes for these. So if I just loosely tighten these up, come on, yeah, not too tight. Torsion. Tubes are very susceptible to it. Not good. Yep, see, no, not good, no matter which angle you look at it. So, just tightening these things a little bit more, making sure they're snug, much, much less. Bobby, do you have anything to add? Neither do I. Actually, well, minor detail-wise, just so you know, this jib, which is only about 4 feet, Some people think, well, 4-foot jib, that's not enough. You can't do anything with that. This can easily get to 8 feet and beyond. My tripod is not even at its full extension on one stage, let alone 2 stages. So yeah, you can actually get plenty of good use. What I find is that any jib that can get a foot above the tallest human, that's plenty, unless I have some special need for much higher extensions. And also, obviously, you want to make sure you're using a big, beefy tripod head or a dedicated panning base so you don't destroy your fluid head, most notably the tilt. You want to make sure your tilt is locked off so that this thing, well, I'll show you. If you don't have a loose tilt locked off, then it will start to get away from you and bad things will happen. Very bad things. It costs around $200 now. And yep, that'll do it for this jib. The model number is the only thing consistent among the manufacturers. It's the MJ906. I've seen this branded as Cowboy Studio, I think ePhoto something and Sunshine something, but that seems to be the model number that is consistent through most, if not all of them. So that is the ultra portable, ultra everything except weight capacity jib. So enjoy.